Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint by Sing Shong. Chapter 186. The 73rd Demon King. Part 5. Stop. Stop it, you son of a bitch. At this time, the main scenario was flowing through the holographic panel at the Soul branch of the Bureau. Some Dakibis sighed as they watched the storm of magic power on the screen. The Dakibis instinctively knew it. The scene that would unfold from now on would be the best story since the Soul Dome scenario began. Bai Hyung watched the scene and was one of them. Yu Jong-hyuk. This damned bastard. Please. Everyone stop him. Block Yu Jong-hyuk. Some Dakibis expressed dissatisfaction with the filtering. However, Bai Hyung was different. Despite the mix of filtering, Bai Hyung was now able to understand their words to a certain extent. Some words could be read, even if they weren't completely written. The same was probably true for the constellations who had been watching the channel all along. Otherwise, the following messages wouldn't come out. The constellation demon-like Judge of Fire is despairing at the tragic situation. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband is tearing out his hair in lumps. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon is looking disturbed. The constellation Secretive Plotter is silently watching the situation. Some constellations resent the atrocities of the nebula. Many constellations are completely immersed in the unpredictable developments. Bai Hyung couldn't take his eyes off the screen. Yu Jong-hyuk, who wanted to become the Demon King, and Kim Dokja, who wanted to stop him. Bai Hyung saw this and was reminded of the days when he was a novice Dakibi. It was a time when he was doing all sorts of events in the star stream. All the stories were lovely, and he couldn't bear the curiosity of the next story. The feelings of those days when he was immersed in the incarnations of his channel were pure and unforgettable. Bai Hyung struggled to ignore the emotions wriggling inside him. That is just a story. No matter how tragic or sad, a story was just a story. The story of Kim Dokja and Yu Jong-hyuk was just one of the countless stories repeated in the star stream. Most of the stories had already been seen, and he had long forgotten the excitement. All he knew was how to give an exaggerated and stimulating directing. Then why? Bai Hyung desperately held the egg in his arms. Shit. Kim Dokja. Do something. As always, fool everyone with an unexpected development. Kim Dokja would find a new method, just like he always did. The Dakibi had such expectations. It is really tragic. Isn't that right? The head of the Soul branch, Baram, stood beside him. Bai Hyung looked at him and answered, "It is a very tragic situation for a half-constellation. The nebulae would suffer greatly from this intervention. Using Deus Ex Machina on this scale wouldn't stop at simply sacrificing lower constellations. Each constellation shared the probability through the nebula, and this incident caused tremendous loss to the probability. If a war between nebulae was to take place in this situation, the loss caused by Kim Dokja would be a decisive blow." Baram replied after a moment, "I think it is worth it if Kim Dokja dies. As I said, they are very sensitive to issues related to the end of everything. They think that the likelihood of Kim Dokja is very high. Then the situation is unfortunate." HRMM? Why? Kim Dokja won't die. Bai Hyung continued without understanding why he was making such a boast. As long as he becomes the Demon King, Yu Jong-hyuk won't kill Kim Dokja. Bai Hyung looked back at the screen. Perhaps the plan was the nebulae was to kill Kim Dokja by making Yu Jong-hyuk the Demon King. However, it was the arrogance of the nebulae who didn't fully understand Yu Jong-hyuk's personality. Don't interrupt. Bai Hyung watched Yu Jong-hyuk through the screen and swallowed down the boiling sensation. In the end, Yu Jong-hyuk would die here, but Kim Dokja would live. Thus, Kim Dokja would once again escape the constellation's fate. If he survived and survived, someday. Baram laughed, "You don't know fate yet." Huh? Do you think the nebulae wouldn't have known this? Do you believe that they wouldn't have analyzed Kim Dokja's personality, even if they can't read his future? Then you are underestimating the weight of destiny. What? Baihyung was interrupted by the bright flash that came from the screen. The star stream is announcing the status of the constellation who doesn't yet have a name. The magnificent light covered the entire holographic panel, and even advanced Dakibis like Baram were impressed. Look. Fate is about to be realized. Dokja Sesai. What are you doing? Wake up. I watched Yu Jonghyuk being tinged with demonic energy and was in a dazed state. Are you concerned about what will happen to this world after I go back? You must be afraid. The moment I disappear, this world will disappear. Isn't that right? It was like thousands of insects had entered my eyes as my senses were disturbed. Kayawak. The party members screamed. There was an explosion in the surrounding area. This world won't disappear if I regress. This world won't end or be upset if I die. The words spoken by Yu Jonghyuk encroached on my head. This world won't disappear, even if Yu Jonghyuk goes back. I didn't understand it. Yu Jonghyuk's sponsor. The existence that never responded to anything in ways of survival, actually replied to Yu Jonghyuk? Why? Under these circumstances? Dokja Sesai. I didn't know. The exclusive skill bookmark is activated. The fifth bookmark, Kyrios Rodgram, is selected. The exclusive skill miniaturization LV3 is activated. The exclusive skill electrification LV11+1 has been activated. My body size was reduced in an instant and the blue-white trail moved towards Yu Jonghyuk. Kim Dokja. Yu Jonghyuk growled out. The blue-white energy hit Yu Jonghyuk's blade and a terrible collision sound was heard. The combination of electrification and white pure star energy met the power of giant body transformation and splitting the sky. I had a thought as I watched the ether storm explode. If Yu Jonghyuk was right, I would no longer have to worry about him regressing. Even if he returned, I could guarantee that this world remained and keep living in it. Kim Dokja, think about it. The opportunities won't often come. The muscles of my body creaked from the excessive force collision. Yu Jonghyuk also poured out all of his power. I felt the texture of the blade in my hand and realized. My pain was alleviated by fourth wall, while Yu Jonghyuk would be taking all of it without a wall. No, it's difficult. Was it okay just because he could regress? Would he sacrifice himself to end this scenario? I told him, there is no such development in the ending that I want. Are you still failing to understand? I must be the Demon King. I will be the Demon King. Don't talk bullshit. If you do that, you will surely die. After being banished from the scenario, resurrection is useless. Perhaps Yu Jonghyuk didn't understand my words. There was a huge wall between us that couldn't be filled. However, it was due to this wall that I could see the sky again and again. Yu Jonghyuk's remorse, his despair, and his dreams. An indomitable will that didn't give up. I grew up reading all of this. Think about it. Who would watch a story without the protagonist? There were numerous memories in my head. I overcame all the tragedies in my life with a single story. It was the story of a person who never gave up, no matter what. That story made me. I could survive to reach here. I will pay off the debt. Debt? What do you mean? You saved me once. Now I'm going to save you. What nonsense is this? I listened to Yu Jonghyuk's voice while using all the techniques I had saved. It was a technique that would exhaust my physical endurance, even if it was just for a moment. It was the first time I tried it directly, but it was probably theoretically possible. Turn off miniaturization. At the same time, my body that was covered in the brilliance of electrification started to return to its original size. Your current body configuration is different from that of the character. At present, you can't use electrification with your body composition. The powerful skill penalty will encroach on your body. Electrification was a technique that could only be used by a small person. However, if I released miniaturization while using electrification, I could still use the power of electrification with my original body. My body wandered through a deadly situation, but once miniaturization was turned off, the power of electrification was amplified. Kim Dokja. Yu Jonghyuk's eyes widened with astonishment as the power of electrification filled the area. The dazzling blue-white ether swept the hall, and Yu Jonghyuk was thrown back into the wall as he coughed up a large amount of blood. A few steps away, I saw Lee Gilyoung picking up the jade that Yu Jonghyuk had dropped. Gilyoung. Give that to me. Lee Gilyoung hesitantly withdrew from me. I don't want to. I heard it all. If Hyung gets this. As Lee Gilyoung hesitated, Han Soo-young shouted at him. Stupid. Get away from Kim Dokja. It was too late. I instantly narrowed the distance and snatched the jade from Lee Gilyoung's hand. I'm sorry, Gilyoung. At the same time, a surge from electrification emerged and the people around me were thrown back. The exclusive skill, bookmark, has been forcibly terminated. My body was overloaded and blood gushed from me. I grasped the jade tightly as my consciousness blurred. Then demonic energy flowed from the jade and wrapped around my whole body. The constellations of the Vedas nebula are smiling with satisfaction. Yes, this was what they wanted. You have met the qualifications to become the 73rd Demon King. The precious jade is amazed by your potential. A new main scenario has been acquired. Dokja SSI. The system messages blocked the voices of my party members, which was vaguely heard. If you choose the way of the Demon King, you must destroy all existences on the 3rd level of Dark Castle. If you fail the scenario, you will be banished forever from this scenario. Banishment from the scenario. It didn't have the same meaning as death. It was to be kicked forever from the flow, controlled by the star stream. I would die in that empty void that couldn't be reached by the eyes of the Dakibis and constellations. There was no one in the star stream who could endure that void. No constellations could exist without the scenario. Now I knew for sure. This was what those damn nebulae were hoping for. I knew very well what that damn fate was pointing to. I am the Demon King. The precious jade has chosen a new candidate to become the 73rd Demon King. The new 73rd Demon King is elected. A mighty demonic energy filled my whole body. You have got a new story. You have inherited the power of the Demon King. My damaged body received the enormous demonic energy and recovered its strength in an instant. No, it was more than recovering. It was a huge energy I had never felt before. I was reborn as something completely different. The star stream will announce your status. Your status is narrative grade. Your stigma has opened. A strong demonic energy is polluting your constellation. You have become a corrupted constellation. A corrupted constellation. It was the star stream's name for the Demon Kings. Many constellations are greatly shocked by your choice. The constellations of the absolute good system are showing fierce hostility towards you. The dark demonic energy slowly lifted, and I could see the party members looking at me with devastated expressions. The people who knelt down were trembling like they couldn't believe it. Yu Jonghyuk's desperate face could also be seen in the distance. The main scenario number 10, 73rd Demon King, has started. I looked at them and opened my mouth in a grand manner. Everybody wake up. Everything in the last 3 days had been for this moment. Remember how to deal with a Demon King. The nebulae probably thought it was going as they planned. Finally, as fate decreed, Kim Dokja would die here. However, they would never know. Just as they placed the scenario of fate here. I had been preparing for 3 days to escape from this damned fate. Faint sunlight was leaking in from the gap in the broken ceiling. I laughed as I gazed at the sunlight that seemed dazzling. Now let's start the last scenario. Today was the day that Incarnation Kim Dokja would die. Chapter 187. The 73rd Demon King. Part 6. The party members were still watching me with confused expressions. The expressions showed they didn't know what the hell was going on. Yu Jonghyuk was still coughing up blood against the wall. I looked at them for a moment before glancing at the wall of the hall. My appearance was reflected on the polished stone wall. Black wings sprouted from my shoulders and small horns rose from my head. Traces of demonic energy were imprinted on my skin like a stigma. My body was 3 or 4 times larger than usual and the muscles of my whole body were greatly expanded. This is ridiculous. Why is Dokja Sasai the Demon King? What the hell is this? What should we do? Yu Sanga and Li Jihai shouted. Yong Hee-won, Lee Hyun-sung, Lee Gil-young, Shin Yu-sung, even Cho Young-ran and Gong Pil-do. Everyone was looking at me with shocked expressions. I watched them and opened my mouth. From now on, you will have to hunt me. The first phase of the 73rd Demon King will begin. The attack time limit is 30 minutes. There is no time. Quickly start. A formidable energy was flowing through my body. Even if I was passively hit, I couldn't help wondering if the party members would be able to decrease my health in the given time. Yong Hee-won and Lee Hyun-sung looked at me desperately and cried out. I don't want to fight Dokja Sasai. I can't follow your command. I could understand their feelings. I would also hesitate if I was in the same situation as them. I deliberately laughed at them. I don't know why you're so serious. Have you forgotten who I am? I am Kim Dokja. I won't die even when killed. The innocent Lee Hyun-sung was shaken by my words. Will you come back to life against this time? Yes. But I heard. Yu Jonghyuk was deliberately trying to provoke me. I didn't use the insight skill, but conflicted emotions were appearing on the people's faces. Maybe their trust in me and the burden of attacking me were clashing inside them. Believe me, this is the most ideal way. The party members would eventually have to attack me. It was because there was no other way. If they didn't kill me, everyone here would die. Han Soo-young was staring at me with scary eyes. I sent a signal to her before she could open her mouth. Han Soo-young. Han Soo-young paled as she read my lips. You are the only one. You have to take charge. I knew it and Han Soo-young did as well. The party members were stronger than other incarnations, but they weren't decisive in this situation. On the other hand, Han Soo-young was faster and more realistic when judging the situation than anyone else here. You are always like this, Kim Dokja. Han Soo-young told me through gritted teeth. Do you think I'm an emotionless monster? Han Soo-young glanced between me and then the party members. Everyone's eyes were focused on her. It was as if everything would be decided by her words. Han Soo-young breathed heavily before opening her mouth. Everybody, wake up. Do you want everyone here to go to hell? I smiled. Yes, she was doing well. We have to kill Kim Dokja. This was Han Soo-young. I don't want to. I don't want to. Hyung. Han Soo-young grabbed Lee Gil-young as he ran towards me. Stupid kid. Listen well. Lee Gil-young gasped and struggled. Han Soo-young snarled as she grabbed Lee Gil-young's collar. Don't whine. Do you want to die instead of Kim Dokja? The rest of you are the same. You aren't willing to sacrifice yourself, so don't be a hypocrite. Instead of dying, say thank you and swing your weapons. Han Soo-young's clones, which had grown by dozens, simultaneously opened their mouths. I don't know if Kim Dokja will come back or not. We will die if we don't kill him in the next 30 minutes. That is the only thing I need to know. Han Soo-young's clones rushed towards me with red eyes. I mouthed towards her, "Thank you." Han Soo-young bit her lips until it bled and swung her dagger towards me. The rain of attacks didn't deal much damage to my body, but this was only the beginning. Yu Sanga received my gaze and slowly stood up. Dokja SSI. It was hard to know what she had decided as unknown feelings were in her eyes. I nodded in response while being hit by Han Soo-young. I think Dokja SSI isn't a person who will hurt others without thinking. Do you have a plan? Did you deliberately direct this scenario? Yes, that's right. Really? Yu Sanga was crying. Should I believe you again? As usual. I knew this would happen. I was glad to hear it. Yu Sanga roughly wiped at her tears. She raised her dagger and participated in the battle. Han Soo-young's lips twitched. I thought you were going to sit back hesitantly and whine. Please be quiet. Han Soo-young and Yu Sanga's daggers placed small wounds on my shoulders and back. However, they were still lacking strength. The remaining time was 25 minutes. It was a tight amount of time if they wanted to use the formation. I looked at Lee Hyun-sung. Lee Hyun-sung SSI. Will you let the party members die? Didn't you say you would never lose the empty cartridge again? Dokja SSI. This isn't just one cartridge. Lee Hyun-sung's eyes were shaking like the sea that met the wind. The constellation Master of Steel is deeply immersed. Time passed before Lee Hyun-sung shouted at the sky. He used steel transformation and rushed towards me. The hard body bumped into me and there was a strong shock. My vision shook slightly. Lee Hyun-sung used Great Mountain Smash, but he seemed on the defensive rather than attacking me. When would I see the sight of a bearish man weeping again? Next was the sound of magic turrets being fired. I laughed when I heard the sound and turned towards that side. Indeed, this was why I couldn't hate him. Gong Pildu was frowning as hard as he could as he activated the turrets of Armed Fortress. Of course, I wasn't just getting hit. The probability of the scenario is dominating your body. Regardless of my will, my body would act as the Demon King. Of course, the attacks were in perfect patterns so the party members could easily cope. Everybody, stay awake. Now it is the second phase. The second phase of the 73rd Demon King was starting. In order to thwart it, special support was needed. Cho Youngran SSI. Cho Youngran received my gaze and invoked the power of the mechanical gateway array method. As if air was being drained through a ventilator, the demonic energy I was emitting disappeared into the hole she created. Her complexion was rapidly becoming white as she dealt with the energy of the Demon King. Blood spilt from her lips as Cho Youngran told me, Sukyang SSI will be sad. She already knows. My demonic energy dwindled and the party members attacked me again. However, they still lacked damage. I paid attention to those who weren't participating yet. Lee Jai-hai bit her lips and finally pulled out her sword. Juicy, don't take revenge later. I won't. Lee Jai-hai smiled weakly at my words. In any case, my attacks are weak and won't hurt. My constellation is only great grade. The Duke of Loyalty and Warfare is not that weak. Jai-hai will soon discover it. Lee Jai-hai used Song of the Sword and aimed for my weakness. The attacks overlapped and a tingling sensation started to appear on my skin. The threat was enough. Now I needed people who could deal the finishing blow. Yong Hee-won SSI. As if she had been waiting, Yong Hee-won slowly pulled out her sword. In the old days, do you remember what you asked me? What? You asked me to be your companion. I remembered. In the theater dungeon, I asked Yong Hee-won to be my reliable companion. Now Dr. SSI is asking your companion to do something like this. I was speechless. What companions? Young Hee-won raised her sword and ran towards me. What type of companion has to kill another companion to live? Young Hee-won triggered demon slaying and started to attack my body. However, the sword just made a rough sound. I told her, it is because you are a trustworthy companion that I am putting my life in your hands. Hee-won SSI, you have to do it properly. Think that I will come back to life again and stab me as hard as possible. Dr. SSI really? Young Hee-won raised her sword towards me. The power of Hell Flame's ignition appeared around Young Hee-won's body. Young Hee-won's eyes were red as she started to concentrate her strength. Her real strength was when the power of Judge of Destruction was added to Hell Flame's ignition. Kim Dokja became a demon king and was a suitable target for that power. The character Young Hee-won has activated Judgment Time. Many of the constellations of the Absolute Good system agree to trigger the skill. There is only one constellation who is strongly opposed to the activation of the skill. The skill activation has been cancelled. The confused Young Hee-won stared at me, and I gazed into the air. It was obvious who had opposed the activation of Judgment Time. Demon-like Judge of Fire. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is covering her eyes with a pained expression. Boreal. Sparks filled the air in response to my call. Please agree to the activation of Judgment Time. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is shaking her head violently. If you don't do this, your incarnation will die. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire says that if she does this, you will die. How good would it be if all the constellations were like her? It was regrettable that I had to hurt Oriel. Oriel, you know. This is just a story. I spoke like a Duckibi. You must have seen many people die in the meantime. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire feels despair. The messages alone portrayed it clearly. I remembered the small and beautiful Oriel I saw at the banquet. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is weeping and repeatedly shaking her head. The little face that kept crying and shaking. She was an angel that didn't match the modifier of demon. Do what you need to do. Only then will this story be completed. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire is looking down at you. After a moment, I heard the message I had been waiting for. All constellations of the Absolute Good system are in favor of Judgment Time. Finally, a bloody aura rose from Young Hee-won's body. Shit, I really hate the name of this skill. The aura of Judgment Time combined with the power of Hell Flame's ignition and created a tremendous wave of magic power. It had the power to destroy all the evil in the world. The Judge of Destruction slashed at the Demon King's chest with her sword of fire. Chapter 188. The 73rd Demon King. Part 7. I was hit by the pouring flames, and pain started to spread through my entire body. It hurt. It really hurt. My skin cracked from the high temperature and my eyeballs felt ripe. Young Hee-won endured her tears and kept attacking me. The flames that destroyed evil burned away at my wounds and all my flesh. I probably would have fainted from the pain if it wasn't for fourth wall. Even so, my body didn't break. The shocked Young Hee-won asked, "What is going on with your body?" The damage is probably too insufficient. The rate of my stamina consumption was accelerated, but it wasn't enough to kill me in the remaining time. I didn't expect that even Young Hee-won wouldn't be sufficient. Honestly, I was at a loss for words. Maybe it was because I was judged to be narrative grade. The Nebula Vedas is rejoicing in your pain. The remaining attack time is 10 minutes. The constellations of the Nebula Papyrus are making a toast. This was just the beginning. A huge shockwave spread through the hall and my body started to grow again. The third phase of the 73rd Demon King is starting. Your body has become harder. We had now reached the third phase. I shouted without feeling panic, "Everybody, stay awake. Do you remember?" The party members nodded and skillfully changed the formation. However, I could see that Cho Youngran's mechanical gateway array method had slightly collapsed from my explosive increase in magic power. In the end, Cho Youngran coughed up blood and sat down. The timing of this was faster than expected. Demonic energy started to fill the whole hall and the party members became weaker as they received debuffs. Now I had to borrow a hand that I hadn't wanted to borrow. The constellation who doesn't yet have a name is looking at his incarnation. Xin Yusung trembled after receiving my message and shook her head. My incarnation Xin Yusung had felt my determination long ago. "Ajusi, I can't do it. Please." I stared at Xin Yusung. This was the relationship between a constellation and incarnation. Rather than speaking 100 words, I conveyed my indescribable and deep emotions just by looking at them. Xin Yusung finally burst out crying as the violent emotions were one-sidedly passed on. I understand. The pain and bitterness in the small child's heart resonated, and as a constellation, I could hear it more than anyone. Xin Yusung held the other child's hand and stood up. "Gilyung. Let's go. We have to do it." Xin Yusung's eyes shone yellow. The characteristics of Beast Master were started to manifest. There was a great trembling in the hall, and I soon heard a tearing sound. A giant beast's snout appeared in the gap. The Chimera Dragon. The giant monster that would later become a destruction species. Flapped its giant wings as it was summoned to the hall. However, the Chimera Dragon hesitated instead of attacking when it saw me. The second-grade monster species, the Chimera Dragon, has refused its master's command. The second-grade monster species, the Chimera Dragon, feels terrified of the 73rd Demon King. Blood poured from Xin Yusung's nose. She couldn't control the second-grade monster alone yet. I watched Li Gilyung and said, "Gilyung. Think of this as a game." Li Gilyung looked up at me. I stared at the child's eyes and remembered the words I had once spoken as we walked through the darkness. It was a conversation that occurred when we wandered together through the darkness of Gumho Station. The moments that passed like nothing became precious memories that returned. Even if I die, I will come back. I promise. These stories became the power to kill me. Ah! Li Gilyung held and used taming. The remaining attack time is 9 minutes. The Chimera Dragon was controlled by the two children's taming and started to cry out in pain. The Chimera Dragon sucked in all the air around it. The Chimera Dragon sucked in even my magic and started to open its huge snout towards me. It was a dark magic power. A huge sphere of light was created between the ferocious fangs. It was a weapon that only a dragon, the peak of monsters, could use. The breath. I was hit by the breath, and my body was torn apart again. It was a shock that caused the mind to break down. Despite this shock, my body was still alive. The party members were shocked by my miserable appearance, but they shouldn't stop. I straightened my ripped lips and said, "Continue. If they didn't do it now, there wouldn't be another chance. A few constellations have noticed your sacrifice. Many constellations are amazed by your will." The Chimera Dragon was exhausted by the use of breath, and its huge body lay on the ground. Fortunately, the Chimera Dragon sucked in most of the worst of my rampaging magic power, but the attack power of the party members were decreasing. Damn, I'm out of magic power. The remaining capture time is 5 minutes. My preparations for dealing with the 73rd Demon King were up to here. So from now on, I should leave it to someone else. Kim Dokja. Yu Jonghyuk had risen from the stone wall and was watching me. I saw that Li Sealwa was exhausted by his side. She had probably poured all her magic power into healing him. I saw many emotions cross his eyes as he identified me as the Demon King. Don't make such an expression. You can't change what has already happened. Don't you already know? Yu Jong-hyuk wiped his bloody lips and murmured, "It should have been me who died here." Fortunately, Yu Jong-hyuk was Yu Jong-hyuk. He already accepted that he would have to kill me. Yu Jong-hyuk rushed towards me with the heaven-shaking sword. Every hit made me feel that my physical strength had been reduced. He didn't say anything, but his despair was conveyed every time the blade cut me. The remaining capture time is 4 minutes. For us, we weren't even allowed time to feel that despair. Let's end it now, Yu Jong-hyuk. Bring that out. I don't know what you mean. Don't play around. I know you didn't use it on purpose. If I use this, you can't be resurrected. That's why you are going to use it. It would be difficult if I came back again as a demon king. What if the scenario ends up being ruined? You should stop thinking about it. Yu Jong-hyuk glared at me without speaking. Do you have an idea? I just laughed at his question. Yu Jong-hyuk hesitated before eventually pulling out a sword. The heavenly sword of gathering clouds. Aim no Murakumo no Tsurugi. It was a sword obtained from Yamata no Orochi in Peaceland. Yu Jong-hyuk spoke in a somber voice. I hoped the moment where I had to use this would never come. Me too. However, now is the time. The constellation, demon-like judge of fire, feels despair. The constellation, prisoner of the golden headband, is sighing deeply. The constellation, queen of the darkest spring, is holding her breath. The power acquired by a story will eventually collapse because of a story. My attribute of 8 lives was derived from the power of Yamata no Orochi. This power was bound to be vulnerable to the weapon of death that killed Yamata no Orochi. Perhaps I would lose all my remaining lives if I was cut by this sword. Yu Jong-hyuk opened his mouth. To be honest, there is no certainty in this. The duration of giant body transformation is over, and I'm not confident in my current attack power. Don't worry about it. I could see Shin Yu-sung furiously shaking her head towards me. The constellation who doesn't yet have a name has given his incarnation a stigma dot. There was a dazzling light, and my stigma nestled inside Shin Yu-sung. The stigma sacrifices will LV1 has been activated. The stigma caused a brilliant glow to emerge from Shin Yu-sung's body. The master of the stigma risks his life for others. The attack power of the party is greatly increased in proportion to the desperation of their lives. The exhausted eyes of my party members started to become energetic again. Sacrifices will. It was a stigma that didn't really suit me. One thing was for certain. My death was now confirmed. Thank you for everything. The remaining capture time is 3 minutes. The party members were running. Lee Hyun-sung, Young Hee-won, Shin Yu-sung, Lee Gil-young, Yu Sang-ga, Gong Pil-do, Lee Jae-hai. They cried, screamed, or were filled with deep anger. Everyone was coming towards me. My vision gradually diminished and all the characters became the landscape. I saw them and laughed. Incarnation, Kim Dokja will be killed by the person he loves most. I had forgotten. All prophecies couldn't be interpreted literally. In this star stream, people were stories. The constellation secretive plotter is looking at you. The constellation demon-like judge of fire is looking at you. The constellation prisoner of the golden headband is looking at you. The constellation abyssal black flame dragon is looking at you. The constellation maritime war god is looking at you. As the gazes of countless stars in the sky poured towards me, a story was running towards me. Parents, friends, and lovers were all stories. The remaining capture time is 2 minutes. This wasn't the ways of survival I knew, but it was a story more wonderful than ways of survival. A constellation of a small planet is looking at you. All the constellations on the Korean peninsula are looking at you. It was my story. I laughed as Yu Jong-hyuk's sword pierced my heart. Your fate has been realized. My body slowly sank down and Yu Jong-hyuk held on to me. Kim Dokja. It was a really great story. Isn't that right? Yu Jong-hyuk stared down at me silently. I couldn't find any words and just watched. It was as if I had always been meant to do this. The effect of the heavenly sword of gathering clouds has destroyed all remaining extra lives. You can no longer resurrect. I finally looked up at the sky. The clusters of nebulae were in the center of the night sky. Vedas, Olympus, Papyrus. I would never forget what they had done. Then the sky blinked. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband doesn't wish for your death. The stars shone brightly as if in response to my will. The constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon doesn't wish for your death. The constellation Secretive Plotter doesn't wish for your death. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire doesn't wish for your death. I looked at the sky and laughed. Due to these guys, I hated the constellations, but I couldn't hate the story. Let's meet again, Yu Jong-hyuk. The power of the Demon King disappeared and at the same time, strength drained from me. The main scenario has ended. Seoul Dome has been freed. A small black hole appeared in the air behind me. My body was slowly being sucked into it. My legs, my torso, my arms, they turned into powder and were slowly being sucked in. Kim Dokja. No. Kim Dokja. At the last moment, he tightly held me by the neck. However, it was already too late. My vision turned black and I was sucked into an empty void. The eyes of the constellations watching me started to disappear one by one. I was leaving the area of the channel. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire doesn't wish for your death. In the distant night sky, one star desperately blinked at me. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire doesn't wish for your death. Yes, you can stop now. Boreal. The constellation Demon-like Judge of Fire, thank you. The stars in the night sky went out one by one and Incarnation Kim Dokja's story finally ended. The constellations of the absolute good system have withdrawn the mark of evil from you. Your incarnation body has completely been destroyed. You have failed the scenario. You have been expelled from the scenario. The star stream will announce your modifier. In the faraway darkness, the star stream was quietly whispering to me. Your modifier is the Demon King of Salvation.